Ever since the creation of websites, one question people have had was the best way to design them. Many studies and design philosophies have been developed over the years to help make websites more accessible to everyone, three of which being value-sensitive design, universal design, and inclusive design. Value-sensitive design is best defined by Mary Kay Pratt when she said, "Value-sensitive design aims to consider the values not only of the users, but of all others impacted by the technologies, regardless of whether those individuals will ever actually use the technologies." What she means by this is that you should be considerate not only of those that interact directly with your design, but anyone who would be indirectly affected as well. For example, when you create a ringtone for a cell phone, you should consider not only the owners of the phones, but the people in public who will need to hear it as well. For universal design, the National Disability Association would define universal design as it creates inclusive design solutions and promotes accessibility and usability, allowing people with all levels of ability to live independently. Put simply, universal design is the philosophy of making your designs available to people of all different types of ableness. One example would be closed captioning, which we offer in this video. Inclusive design is defined by the Ontario College of Arts and Design as design that considers the full range of human diversity with respect to ability, language, culture, gender, age, and other forms of human difference. While similar to universal design, inclusive design is differentiated mostly by context. Inclusive design is used more for cultural inclusivity, such as multiple language options or diversifying your designs.
The study of value-sensitive design began in the 90s by Batya, Friedman, Peter Kahn, and David Hendry at the University of Washington. The study began as an answer to the emerging issue of technology not being made with the user in mind. In the 1996 sixth issue of Interactions, a journal for human-centered computing and interaction, Friedman stated that the purpose of value-sensitive design was to value human values as understood from an ethical standpoint. Friedman continues to describe issues that come with the lack of insight to the person utilizing the technology, such as a lack of user autonomy, a misrepresentation of the system in use, emergent and pre-existing biases that limit full use of the technology to a certain type of user, and more. Even in the newest edition of the published book exploring the topic, Friedman continues to insist upon the importance of building technology with the user in mind, citing the inherent issues of bias and stating the study's revised purpose as providing theory, method, and practice to account for human values throughout the technical design process. At present, the founders of the design study continue to teach at the University of Washington. The drive of value-sensitive design continues on in the concepts of inclusive and universal design. According to the Institute for Human-Centered Design, also known as IHCD, Ron Mace established the principles of universal design in 1997. According to humancentereddesign.org, the Institute established the concept alongside other U.S. organizations and authors in that same year. Throughout 1998 and 2006, IHCD held international conferences that propagated the use of the terminology across the globe to the United Kingdom and others. The purpose of inclusive and universal design is accessibility, and in the 1950s, inclusive design's specific purpose was to focus on ways the design could accommodate people with disabilities, specifically in Japan. Come the 1970s, the United States and some European countries were also attempting to modify technology to accommodate for the disabled. The United States faced accessibility and civil rights movements at this time, and with that came a larger focus on providing accessibility, with design recognized as a condition for achieving civil rights in particular, according to humancentereddesign.org. In 1990, the U.S. created the Americans with Disabilities Act. This gave way to needing an established method of providing the most inclusive and universal design for any establishments receiving funding from the government. An amendment in 1998 emphasized the importance of design in a technological capacity and began establishing specific performance measures that would need to be followed, such as making resources for the vision impaired to use to access information technology resources. As found in the second edition of the Universal Design Handbook, compiled by Preiser Wolfgang and Korydon H. Smith, the primary goal of inclusive and universal design is the design of products and environments to be usable by all people, to the greatest extent possible, without the need for adaptation or specialized design. This definition and purpose continues to stand to this day.
While the ideologies behind value-sensitive, universal, and inclusive design have only recently begun to gain awareness, they have already influenced several social movements and paved the way for advancements in user interface accessibility. According to Sasha Constanza-Chalk, a communications scholar and activist, the presence of Eurocentrism and settler colonialism in user interfaces has led social groups to advocate for better representation. A few years ago, Facebook implemented a real name policy, requiring users to use their real name in their profile. In theory, this policy appeared to be an effective tool to combat spam accounts. However, enforcing this policy required Facebook to define what constituted a real name. Being such an abstract concept, an attempt to categorize a name as real automatically introduces systemic bias. This poses a problem for members of certain communities, such as the LGBTQ+ community, that rely on aliases that would otherwise fail to comply with Facebook's real name policy. As a result, strong pushback from the LGBTQ+ community and other misrepresented groups led Facebook to revise its policy. Now let's discuss several ways that interfaces have incorporated each of the design ideologies, starting with value-sensitive design. To understand how interfaces have evolved and began taking their users' values into consideration, we must first look to the past. Nicola Marsden, a professor of social psychology at Heilbronn University, cites that a common criticism of older interfaces was their limited choices for a user's gender, cis male or cis female. This selection was made with the naive assumption that every user would self-identify with their cisgender. Consequently, many users felt misrepresented and obligated to conform to what an interface deemed as a valid gender. Now, the majority of interfaces acknowledge their users' diverse set of values when choosing what options to display within a gender drop-down menu. In addition to the standard male and female options, choices for choose to not self-identify, genderqueer, non-binary, among others, are also present. Next, let's talk about universal design. Constanza-Chalk argues that a drive to improve the user experience without the need for the user to make any adjustments gave birth to the philosophy of universal design. A great example of a universally designed tool is a screen reader. According to the American Foundation for the Blind, screen readers provide their users with a spoken description of the current state of the interface. This technology allows visually impaired users to interact with an otherwise inaccessible visual-based interface using voice cues. Another technology developed using universal design ideologies was closed captions for videos. Displayed as a time-synced horizontal bars in the video, closed captions provide a transcript of spoken dialogue as well as context for scenes with no spoken audio, extending accessibility to hearing impaired users. Finally, let's discuss advancements in inclusive design. User interfaces should feel inclusive when used by physically limited and marginalized users. To tackle this challenge, designers have started including customizable software features that cater to users with specific needs. For instance, some users might be visually abled but suffer color blindness to some degree. To make these users feel inclusive, interfaces come with display preferences that replace colors not visible to colorblind users with alternatives that they can see. Alternatively, some users might experience difficulties reading small text. To remedy this, interfaces allow users to scale the system font size to their liking. Users can further improve readability by opting for a bolder font weight.
There have been several studies that have shown the three types of design movements that expand the accessibilities for our users. The first is value-sensitive design. With value-sensitive design, it is always important to have value and try to understand where everyone is coming from. According to the ABET, that when they used the value-sensitive design, it served as a rewarding tool that bridges the gap between the ethics and the designs. One of the biggest obstacles for value-sensitive design is artificial intelligence, because of the simple fact that AIs must be self-taught and do not have the same humanistic values as us. Friedman and Nissenbaum defined freedom bias as computer systems that systematically and unfairly discriminate against certain individuals or groups of individuals in favor of others. There are numerous different research that have showcased positive feedback for utilizing a value-sensitive design, as well as issues that can occur within the AI that contribute to more discrimination within a community. Inclusive design is an approach that intends to include different races, genders, and disabilities all within a design process. Researchers have discovered a way that allows the designer to understand the principal methods for designing for users with a different capabilities. This is known as the inclusive design cube. The cube increases sensory and cognitive capabilities. It also has a higher success rating than universal design. Now, universal design is universally accessible regardless of a user's limitations and environment. Burgstaller designed the Sempisky triangle, which raised 3 points that each point is usability, accessibility, and inclusivity, which creates universal design. Universal design must fit with everyone's needs, which can be difficult, as Gerald argues that even if the designer creates a design that suits people with disability, the designer is still excluding other areas. Therefore, the movement can be almost impossible to design.
The future of value-sensitive, universal, and inclusive design is just beginning to be written. There are still great steps and measures that need to be taken in each category to continue to develop them and improve them. Although these designs have come a long way, there is still some work that needs to be done. It is not enough to just be accessible to everyone, but also inclusive. People who these designs are made for have access to them, but it still makes them different. In this article, The Future of Universal Design, Wayne Caswell states, universal design is still perceived as, quote, designed for disability, end quote. This has proven to lead to negative connotations as the word disability carries some sort of stigma and is seen as less than, which is not the case. These designs should not be used to separate and alienate some of the very people that were put in place to help. Universal and inclusive designing need to be used to uplift everyone and achieve the goal they have of designing for inclusivity, equality, and diversity among the population. In Jane Bringle's article, Barriers to Universal Design and What to Do About Them, she mentions that universal designing must do better to seek to progress a case of inclusiveness against a background of entrenched stereotyping and stigmatization. A way to remedy this is to use the word accessible instead of disabled when discussing things like ramps or parking spaces. In 2018, Microsoft launched its inclusive design resources. The Inclusive 101 manual, as stated on the website and campaign of this toolkit, is a comprehensive introduction to the world of inclusive design. Things like this that promote and facilitate inclusivity implemented by huge companies such as Microsoft is what the future looks like for value-sensitive, universal, and inclusive designing. Everything they offer is free to download and use at one's own discretion, and that holds so much power for the future of these designs. Although the fight is far from over, this is a great step at making sure resources to learn are more available. The resources that are included in this toolkit are Inclusive 101, Inclusive Activities, In Pursuit of Inclusive AI, Design for Guidance, and Respecting Focus.
This video incorporates accessible designs in multiple ways. The first way would be through the theme/design layout. And in this category, there are multiple features. The first and second features are through the contrasting colors and the appropriate font sizing and styling. This helps for anyone, but especially those who are visually impaired or have visual deficiencies. They can go ahead and comprehend the material better, and the content becomes more legible for them. The third feature would be through using bullet points. Instead of having the material be all clustered together or just one large paragraph, it is now separated into different sections, and this allows for the content to be readable. The fourth way would be through the inclusion of images. Images help for those who may not be able to comprehend the text as much, can now look at the image and have a better understanding as to what is going on within that section. And then the fifth feature would be through providing text under every image. This helps for those who are looking at the image and may not be able to understand what is going on. They can go ahead and read the text and get a better understanding of that image. A second way the video has incorporated accessible designs is through minimal animations. Now, we had the option to include a lot of animations, but too much animations can cause for distraction and confusion. And we would like this video to be accessible for everyone and comprehensible for everyone. And so we just went ahead and minimalized the animations. The third and fourth way would be through captionings and text transcripts. This helps for those who are hearing impaired or have hearing deficiencies. They can go ahead and read the captionings or read the text that is provided and get a better understanding of the material. The fifth way would be through audio voiceovers. And now this helps with those who are visually impaired or have visual deficiencies. They can go ahead and listen to the material and be on the same pace or on the same level as everyone. The sixth way is through individual videos. Now, for those who are having a hard time sitting down and watching a full 10-minute video, they can go ahead and watch the video in sections and get a better understanding that way. And then the last way would be having this video being shared publicly. Now, anyone can go ahead and access this video, and it is not excluding anybody out.